this is like totally unprofessional, but I'm just gonna say, I'm throwing myself under the bus before you watch these videos. I made a boo-boo and I started using retinol, and like I started using it every day and I forgot that you're supposed to pace it out. So yes, like, oh my God. But here's the thing. What I wanted to say is, like, there are always going to be a million reasons why you can't do something or you have to reschedule something. But listen, I'm on here with like reptile skin and I'm here for you. And the thing is, I'm just going to do it because I said I was going to do it. And I just like, how lifey is this? Life is so lifey. In business, you're always going to come across these things. And there's going to be this fork in the road where you're like, am I going to do it or do I have to reschedule? Do it. It's not that big of a deal. And honestly, maybe this will make me more relatable, or maybe this will make me look like an idiot. I don't care. It is what it is. It was totally lame that I did that. Didn't think about it. I was just like so excited. I'm like, I'm pre-wrinkling. So you can even see like, oh my God, it's so dry. Ugh. Well, it's Reptile Jenna. Let's get into it. Hey you guys, it's Jenna with SOCO Lashes. Today's video is all about adhesive 101, if you will. We're going to talk about reactions, how to store properly, what ifs, and I guess just all the questions that you sent me. Let's get into it. And I'm like totally trying to get the lighting down. If it's like getting worse, can you guys please tell me, or if it's getting better? Yeah, this is a challenge. Okay, so the first question I want to address is there a difference between qualities of adhesive? Because you know, I feel like this industry is kind of like the blind leading the blind, right? Like everybody tells you something different, and this person's been in the industry for 10 years and tells you something completely different than this person who's been in the industry for 10 years. What's the answer? So from the perspective of a supplier, somebody who has tested hundreds of adhesives, the quick answer to that is, of course there's a difference. That's kind of like saying, all mascara is the same, or like all liquid eyeliner is the same. Come on, we know that the Stila felt tip black eyeliner is the best, and it doesn't compare to anything else. It stays on, it doesn't chip off. There is a difference. In my experience, there is like high quality, low quality, and then kind of something in between that doesn't really have a category of itself. It tends to be a little bit inconsistent. What you will find, the higher quality adhesives are going to be much easier to work with, and the retention's better. Lower quality, they can be a little bit trickier to work with, like maybe they take a little bit longer to dry, or maybe they dry too quickly. But the real all truth would be the retention. Another thing that I've noticed with low quality adhesives is they're very fumey. So I think what I would guess would be that the cyanoacrylate is a little bit more dense in the lower quality, because that's supposed to give you a better retention. But if something's stinging and a client's eyes are watering, I don't think that's going to give anybody better retention. And in addition to that, you're likely going to possibly cause reactions. We'll get more into that from overexposure, but yes, of course there's a difference between quality. So I guess another question, one of the questions that kind of tailed off of this was, why are pricing so different? I could list many reasons why people price things differently. Our price is the US price point for a business. You have to have a certain percentage markup so that you actually make money. Otherwise, you end up losing money, or you're like making minimum wage. So yes, I suppose maybe somebody could have a good quality glue and just they don't mark it up as much. That's possible. It could be less expensive because maybe they're a huge company and they're ordering like huge quantities. So just because it's less expensive doesn't necessarily mean that it's lower quality. However, when you're kind of reflecting off of really like a small micro brand, the only thing that I could say, because I was very small long ago, wasn't that long ago. Believe me, I'm still a little fish. But what I meant was, when I wasn't having consistent orders, the glues are still the same price for us to purchase. Not only were they the same price, but when you're ordering less, they're actually a little bit more expensive. So the more you buy, the bigger the break I would get as a company who's purchasing to sell to consumers like you. So there was a point where we were paying probably like around double than what we pay now because we were buying such a low quantity. And the thing is, it's like the adhesive that was there, we would throw them out at 6 months. And the thing is, like, if we sell them, they're supposed to be good for 6 months. But you have to just really be honest with yourself. And with these smaller brands, you have to think like, okay, are they throwing them out once a month, or are they pushing it out for 6 months and hoping that we use it in a month? Shelf life could vary. I don't know where everybody gets their adhesives. We store our adhesives in a refrigerator. So if your supplier is storing them in a refrigerator, they can last 15 months if they stay in a refrigerator unopened. But because they're shipped to us, it's kind of like chicken, right? You can only defrost it once or twice. Cyanoacrylate, it doesn't pair well with moisture. So anytime you take it out of the refrigerator, you are chancing it, coming into contact with moisture. So our batches at SOCO Lashes are fresh made and shipped to us. When we get them, we stick them right in the refrigerator. So when we pull them out, because we're preserving them from immediate intake, you can pull them out of the refrigerator and let them come to room temperature one time. So that means we've kept them fresh for you guys. And then when we ship them to you, once you get them, you have to keep them in a refrigerator. And I know that that's confusing because a lot of people say, well, how am I supposed to use it? Our best recommendation is just to keep a mini refrigerator right at your station, pull it out, shake it for 10 to 15 seconds, refresh, put it right back in there. You don't want the core temperature to rise and drop too many times, because what that's going to do is it's going to create condensation inside of your bottle. So just be mindful of that. If you don't have a refrigerator or a mini fridge, or you just don't want to deal with it, totally get it. The best alternative, I had found, it was from Target, I know, you're welcome, you get to go there. It was a marble, I'm gonna try to find a picture of it and I'll add it to the end of this video. It was just like a marble Q-tip holder, and it had a lid. So something about natural stone is it's naturally cold. So this was perfect for adhesive. All I did was stick it in there. It stayed very, very cold. The temperature was, I don't remember exactly what the temperature was, but it was maybe around like 55-ish, but very, very cold. So that's a fantastic alternate. Any stone. And if you're like, well, is this cold enough? When you touch it, if it feels cool, perfect, but you want there to be a lid. Probably like World Market would have something. If Target doesn't, go on target.com. If they don't have it in the store, it's just literally like a marble Q-tip holder. Put like marble bathroom supplies or something like that. I think it was like less than $20. It's totally cute. If you're like me and you're like monochromatic, everything has to be white. It's like a white marble, super clean, beautiful. And it's a perfect alternative for a refrigerator if you don't want to deal with that. And if you don't want to deal with that either, you can just keep it in a cool, dark cabinet or a drawer. Just make sure as soon as you refresh, you pull it out, it just goes right back to where it was. The thing with keeping it cold, why I like to do it, is because if you work in a room that does tend to get warmer, currently right now, I don't. My room stays cold. But if you do work in a room that kind of like fluctuates with temperature, or like kind of like the worst case scenario, like the South, or like places in Texas or like Florida that deal with humidity, in the beginning of your day, obviously the humidity might be a little bit lower because you've been closed and your door's closed, but towards the end of the day, because people have been opening the door so much, your humidity rises. So the thing is, if you're in a place like that, really, really keep it either in a refrigerator or a marble container to keep it cool, because what's happening is it's fluctuating. The core temperature is going up and down and up and down. Even a few degrees makes a bit of a difference. You want it to be stable. And I think that, the last thing I wanted to say was, the reason why I really recommend refrigerating is because it's going to keep it really thin throughout the entire 30 days. So as far as like letting it warm up to room temperature, you don't have to. I hear both sides of the story, but just from my personal experience, lashing, I've been lashing for almost a decade, and I've been in the industry for 22 years. So as long as lashing has been around, I've always worked alongside of a lash artist before I even did lashes. And I've seen probably everything that everybody does. I just think that it keeps it thin longer. The thinner it is, the easier it is to work with. And you'll notice if you work with a speed adhesive or a faster drying adhesive, whatever you want to call it, towards the end of that 30 days, it does tend to get a bit thicker. I worked with a really big lash company and I got a discount. So what I started doing was ordering 2 glues a month. And halfway through, every other Monday I would throw it away. And the reason behind that was because my thought was, why do I want to use a product that expires tomorrow? What? So in my mind, I was like, I'm going to see if this helps my retention. So I started throwing my adhesive away at day 14 and replacing it. And I got I think I got like a 20% discount with the company that I worked for. So what we do is we offer a 20% discount to you guys at SOCOLashes.com if you buy a twin pack. So it's like, I got that, so I want to kind of extend that to you guys. That's fair. I feel like I did it because I got a discount, so I want to extend that to you guys. But that was the very first aha moment of adhesive, and the relationship between adhesive and myself changed because I started to understand it. And again, like if you think about it, if it's expired at day 30 and you're using it at day 27, it's like almost 90% not good. And when the viscosity changes, the viscosity is how thick or thin it is. So it's going to get higher viscosity, which means it's going to get thicker towards the end of your 30 days. And it's harder to work with. You'll find that you're refreshing your adhesive more often. I'll challenge you to try it. Try it to see if it makes a difference for you, but I guarantee it's going to be easier to work with. And your clients are going to notice the retention. And tell them, just say, hey, pay attention, because I want to know if you notice a difference. And maybe if you have clients that pick, they'll be really careful and not pick, and it'll be in their head where everything will just start holding better because it's the glue, and then also they're not picking. So tell your clients when you do something that's beneficial to them like that. And for me, I thought, if I'm spending, I think it was maybe like $50 at the time if I was getting a discount. So if I was spending, let's say it's even 70, like what we charge if you're paying full price. For me, paying an extra 35 divided by 2, so like 1350, is that right? 1350? 1350? 1750. An extra 1750 a week for good retention, that was worth it for me. So really consider that when you're thinking about like, when is my glue expiring? The expiration date is between 28 to 30 days. I say 28 just because for me, it's easier to do one like day of the week, or 14 if you're gonna do every other. But try that. Let me know what you think. I think that you'll be hooked on replacing every 2 weeks. It literally makes the biggest difference. Okay, next question. Does your adhesive have formaldehyde in it? No. To my knowledge, no lash adhesive actually contains formaldehyde. What I think people may be misunderstanding is that the gas that the adhesive forms once it comes into contact with oxygen is like formaldehyde. It acts like formaldehyde. So what happens is, I'm going to use my coffee cup because it's right here and I don't have, I don't have a glue. Okay, anyways, let's pretend that this is your adhesive. Most of the time when you get your adhesive, you guys, it's gonna be halfway full. That's for proper oxidation when you're mixing your ingredients after they settle from sitting. Normal. So when you get your bottle, you'll notice that most companies have a wraparound label, so you don't notice it. We don't, so we get that probably like once or twice a month saying like, oh no, my glue's half full. Don't worry, they're all like that. You are getting the full 5 milliliters of liquid, but it's for proper oxidation when you're mixing ingredients after they've settled. So let's just pretend, let's say that this is glue. Okay, this is your adhesive, and now this is the space, right? So once you open your adhesive for the first time, oxygen is now let in. Okay, sorry, my phone keeps refocusing. So now what's happening is oxygen and your glue is touching. Now there's gas right here. All that's forming is gas. Once you're halfway through the bottle, now you have half adhesive, half gas. It's really, really bad and toxic, and that's coming in direct contact with your adhesive. So that's why it spoils quick, because it's becoming a little bit more toxic. Towards the end of that 30-day mark, the exposure to that gas is now unsafe to use near the eye. So, which hopefully maybe will now make sense, where I'm like, why would I use it when it's right about to give people reactions? So I hope that helps a little bit. Understand why you still have to throw it away if you're part-time. And it sucks for some people because like sometimes I know people only work like 1 day a week. So I'll always say like, hey, if you have somebody who also works part-time, ask if they want to go in and glue with you. Don't have to have one by yourself. So that's an option too, so you guys can save a little bit of money and have fresh glue. We used to do in our salon, a couple girls would just share and then we would replace every week. So it was like so fresh. So I hope that helps you understand why it does spoil so fast, why bottles come and
you
they
guys will have
are,
to excuse my
empty.
incredible video editing abilities. Just kidding. Okay, so the one that I have was on the very left, Target.com, $15. I'm sure you can get it in the store. And then the next screen, excuse that, sorry. Just an example of a mini fridge, nothing special. You just get them on Amazon. Don't spend more than $50.
Okay, here's another one that we get all the time. I think my client is allergic to black carbon. Do you guys carry a clear adhesive? Here is the thing about that. Anybody can be allergic to anything, so I'm not discrediting that. There are people that are allergic to water. Yes, some people can be allergic to black carbon, but if your client has a reaction, then it's more than likely from the cyanoacrylate. It is a mild toxin. It doesn't create, really common allergies, but it does create allergies or sensitivities with 5% of people naturally. Now, you can also give your client an allergy or a sensitivity by overexposing them to the cyanoacrylate or the adhesive by constantly placing it on their skin. That's why your trainers or educators will tell you never let it come into contact with the skin, because I think long ago, before we ever knew this, I think like lash artists in the beginning are, myself included, probably responsible for causing allergic reactions because it was such a new industry. Nobody knew anything. Like when I first started, I would write the company that I used and say, hey, my adhesive is causing a reaction. Can you tell me, can you help me? What am I doing wrong? And the answer is always this. Well, it could be this, it could be this. Now today you guys are so lucky because now if, for example, if you send me a picture, I know exactly what it is, I know how to avoid it, and I know probably what the answer is. But you guys are so lucky to have actual answers. Like we literally were going at it blindly, and it wasn't even the blind leading the blind, because like everybody was like, I don't know. So 5% of people are just innately allergic, but you can give your client an allergic reaction. Typically, once they have an allergic reaction, they can't ever have lashes again. You can use a sensitive adhesive. The difference between a sensitive adhesive isn't the amount of cyanoacrylate. It's just a slower drying adhesive. And it's just, they can still have an allergic reaction to that. So that's unfortunate. And I just also wanted to touch on, brain fart. I just wanted to touch on also using your adhesive past the expiration date, because that will totally cause allergic reactions. If you're using an adhesive that's exposed to that vapor, it's not good. You're going to cause reactions. And what I forgot to mention a minute ago was we would keep our glue for like months, you guys, because we didn't know. Nobody knew. It was like so new. There were no rules. We were making them up as we go. So keeping glue past the 30 days, you will cause reactions. And the thing that sucks about that is like, it always ends up being the really good clients that are like on time, that bring you coffee, and it's like they'll all come at once too. You're like, oh, it was me. So make sure you're really following recommendations of your supplier, read the directions, and if you guys have questions, ask. No question is stupid. So on my DM on Instagram, you guys can always ask me questions. And now it's going to be cool because I'll have like, when somebody has a question, I'll just send a link to like this video if you have any questions about adhesive allergies. So it's going to be really convenient just to be like, oh my God, I made a video on this. And also if there's something that I didn't cover regarding reactions yet and I move on, let me know in the comment section and I will address it in another video. Okay. So I want to talk about the difference between like a sensitivity and an allergy. These next photos are going to be of just a mild sensitivity, a severe allergy, a chemical burn on the actual eye, and then something that a lot of people think is a reaction from the adhesive, and it's actually an abrasion on your eye from the tape slipping up and not placing it properly, or just like having the tape slip. So let's go through these next slides and I will explain each and every one of them, and hopefully you'll be able to identify that on your own moving forward. Okay, this is a really common one too. Your glue's drying way too slow or way too quick. It's not doing what it says it's gonna do. And people are like upset. Totally get it, you spend a lot of money on glue. But here's the thing. When you order an adhesive, it's going to work the best or exactly how it says it's going to work in that environment. So in that temperature and in that humidity. What people, I think, forget, and it's like so simple when you think about it, when you work in environments that are warmer or more humid, it's going to dry the glue faster. So for example, if you have a speed adhesive and you're working outside of the environment, like it's more humid or warmer, it's going to dry that glue prematurely, which means because it's a speed adhesive, it's meant to dry very quickly. It can actually start to dry mid-air. So when you're going from the glue to the natural lash, it's like already starting to partially dry because this cyanoacrylate is so moisture reactive. If there's moisture in the air or heat in the air, it immediately starts to cure. And I want you guys to picture, this is how I explain it to my students. So think of a candle. You have a candle going for a couple hours and it's like kind of liquefied at the top, and you blow the candle out. What happens is that top layer starts to dry fastest, right? So you can see like that top layer is now hard. And like when you're a kid, you would like stick your finger in it, you know? So glue's the same way. It dries on the outside first. So if you think of this glue dot, like think of it like this, when you're going from the glue and now you're going to the lash, the outside of that perimeter is going to form a shell. So if you are working with a speed adhesive and you're working outside, like above your temperature or heat, humidity, it's going to cure the adhesive faster. So what could happen is you're trying to adhere an extension with a drop of adhesive that's already started to form its outer shell. It will still stick for a minute because it's just that outer shell. So what's gonna happen is you're gonna push it and it's gonna go, and like all these teeny tiny little dots, like think of like remember when you used to stick your hand with glue when you were a kid and you'd go like, and then you'd push on it and then like little beads would come out of it because it was still kind of wet. That's what's sticking to it. So it's gonna look like it's sticking, but in a couple days they're going to fall off. So if you're experiencing poor retention, you really like the glue, you could use a dehumidifier to get rid of some humidity. You could use an air conditioner. The one thing I will say about an air conditioner is be very, very mindful about where your air is coming from. Oftentimes the air will come down, right? And it's like angled wherever the vents make it go. There was one time, I'm gonna tell you a story. All of a sudden my clients weren't holding and I'm like, what the hell? Well, what I didn't realize was that the air vents were now directed exactly at me. So if you have a vent in your room, which I hope that you do, because it's going to control the temperature, just get an air director. It's just one of those plastic pieces. I'll add a picture after this just to show you what they look like. Super inexpensive. I think they're like $7 to $10 at any hardware store, like Home Depot, Lowe's, and just direct that air away from you. Something else that I had to learn the hard way, I worked in this beautiful, beautiful Victorian building, and I placed my lash room in this gorgeous sunroom, full of windows. It was amazing. But what I didn't take into consideration was that I got a lot of direct light. And what happened was my adhesive got direct light. And what happens is that core temperature heats up. So be aware of your surroundings, and you're gonna get the glue and you're gonna be like, this is sticky and thick. Probably because it got hot. So that's something to be really, really mindful of. And these are things that like, you kind of have to like learn the hard way or learn from somebody else that learned the hard way. Those are two things that I had to learn the hard way, and it took me forever to figure out like, what the hell? So I hope that is helpful and saving you money. Again, storing it in a refrigerator or a like closed container, or like one of those stone containers, like I was saying at Target, is really gonna eliminate a lot of your issues. It's gonna be so much more consistent. And if there are changes in your room, it's not going to affect it so much. The next thing I want to talk about is a changing environment. A changing environment might mean that you have to get 2 different adhesives. Most oftentimes, your room is the coolest in the morning and the warmest in the evening. Typically here in California, the warmest part of the day is like between 3 and 5. So anytime somebody is having issues with their adhesive, I'm like, okay, cool, do me a favor. Take a picture of your thermostat and your humidity gauge at like 8 o'clock, like first thing in the morning, and then take it again at like between 3 and 5. Oftentimes those temperature or heat fluctuations are so wildly different. So it is unfortunate sometimes if you live in work or live, some people work out of their house. If you're working in an environment where you can't control, you're likely gonna have to use 2 different glues. It is what it is. You could use one adhesive and just like kind of suck it up and fight with the slow drying glue in the morning. But the next portion of this is going to explain why. So we talked about if you're working with a speed adhesive in a warm environment, right, it doesn't work. So let's talk about the complete opposite. Let's talk about a normal drying adhesive and a humidity adhesive. These work because they're slower drying. That means like this normal drying is a little more flexible. So yeah, it's gonna be a little bit slower drying, but it gives you a lot more flexibility. So a normal drying adhesive, if you do have fluctuating environments, as long as they're not too crazy dramatically different, you can get away with using a normal drying. But a humidity adhesive is extremely slow drying. If you use a humidity adhesive in an environment that has no humidity, that adhesive is never going to dry. And there are some people who order our humidity adhesive and they work like in Florida where it's like so humid, but their room is actually temperature and humidity controlled. So they might not even need a humidity adhesive. And it's like, this is too slow, this isn't working. It doesn't matter what the environment is outside. It matters the environment that you're actually placing the lash on, where it's drying immediately, where the attachment's happening. So let's give a scenario. So if you use a humidity adhesive in a really, really hot or humid environment, what's going to happen? Are you guessing? It's going to dry as it should, as the directions say. But if you're going to use a humidity adhesive with low humidity or a lower temperature, it's going to dry painfully slow. Okay, let's do the opposite. If you have a speed adhesive and you are using your speed adhesive in a cooler or lower humidity, what's going to happen? It's going to dry much slower. So it's going to act more like a normal drying adhesive. So really, really, really pay attention to what adhesive you're purchasing, your room. It doesn't so much make a difference on retention, because as long as you're holding it as it's drying, that's fine. It makes a difference on your attitude, your like frustration, like, why is this not drying? Or like, oh my God, it's not holding. So that's why it matters, because you want to get the lash or fan from the adhesive straight onto the lash and have it dry in an appropriate amount of time, where it's not drying too quickly before you get it on the lash, and it's not drying so slowly that it's driving you crazy. And you know what I'm talking about when you're like using, placing your lash and it's like sliding around and you're like using your tweezer to hold it up and you're like, yeah, yes. So something else that I will talk about would be amounts of adhesive. And I will post a video talking about the amounts of adhesive. So the amount of adhesive is extremely important, because if you're doing too much, it's going to dry really, really slow. In addition to drying really, really slow, you're probably going to create tons of stickies. On the opposite end of that, if you're not doing enough, it might dry too quickly, or it just might not be enough adhesive. I'm going to show you examples of what a lot of my students do when they come in. And most of my students will use not enough glue, and they're just getting glue on the very, very, very tip, and you want more real estate than that. I will show you a little more in depth in the videos, but you want the perfect amount. And I know it's like so hard. You're like, well, how much is perfect? You'll start to get it, because it grabs well, it holds well. And again, like in my video that I talked about like when should you raise your prices, your first year is full of trial and errors, and I can literally give you a playlist of everything to do. It is so much to remember. It's just doing it. Oh, that's right. That's what my trainer was talking about. Doing it, and then it clicks. Your whole year is like that. And you know, the best advice, as always, is just ask for help, because that's what we're here for. And at SOCO Lashes, if you don't buy from us, I'm still going to help you. I'm not going to let you like suffer. So reach out, even if you've never purchased from us, even if you don't ever plan on purchasing from us. I'm happy to help you. I'm not going to leave you stranded. I believe in good karma, and pay it forward to somebody else. And you know, my editing skills,
you're welcome. There's that. These are just dehumidifiers. All they're going to do is suck the additional moisture out of the air to help your adhesive work better. This next is a humidifier, so it's going to add humidity if your humidity is too low and your glue is drying too slow. This next thing is the air vent director. You'll scroll all the way down. See, that's exactly what it is, except it goes on your ceiling. And this is the exact humidifier I have from Pottery Barn, although it's not exactly fitting in the screen. I'm going to add the link into the show notes for you. Okay, so we're going to go over an example of too much adhesive, not enough, and just the right amount with classic and volume. Okay, this would be an example of not enough. It's just at the very tip, and I've also seen some people do this and kind of like scoop it to where there's a big bubble. It's still like too much in one area and not enough all over. This would be a perfect example of too much. This is going to create stickies. It's going to take a long time to dry. You could kind of paint it on the lash and kind of spread it, but still, why bother? And this is a perfect amount. If you can dip it in very slowly and pull it out slowly, it's going to coat that lash just perfectly. So volume fans are a little bit different. So this is going to be an example of not enough. I'm going to kind of bring it closer so you can see. So just like slightly getting that tip in there. And I see so many people do this. Yes, that's a great amount of glue right at the tip, but it's not going to hold very much to the lash. You want more fan to lash, natural lash, bonded. So this would be an example of like way too much. This is like all the way up into the fan part that starts spreading. It's a big blob. It's definitely going to cause stickies. It's maybe going to be uncomfortable. And eventually when I see people do that, they oftentimes get those snow caps, like touch the skin because it's too much. Okay, so this is what I want to do, and I want you guys to pay attention. I put glue on one side. I want you to pay attention. I tilt it to the side, and you can see there's just glue on one side. You don't need glue on both sides. You're just attaching the lash to one side. You don't have to do it like this, but this eliminates stickies.
Okay, this last video is going to just a little bit, a skosh touch on primer and sealer. And I'm going to do a really in-depth video on primer and sealer and explain why it does certain things and why it won't do certain things. But primer and sealer. Primer goes on before, and then you're gonna let it completely dry. If you wanna use the fan, great. Sealer goes on after. So sealer is the last step that you'll do. Sealer goes on, and you're just going to put it on the base of the lashes. Don't flood the lash line. If you do too much adhesive, it's going to make all the lashes fall out. And you're going to wait a full 3 minutes after you've placed the last lash, and then before you apply the sealer. So what I do, I am like always over, above and beyond, because I don't want to worry about retention. I actually have my clients are laying there and they literally go like this and they grab the fans. So they hold the fans, and sometimes they're fanning for like 4 or 5 minutes, because when they're fanning, I'm cleaning up, I'm like disinfecting, I'm getting ready for my next client, whatever I can do to kind of like save a little bit of time. They're fanning, great. If you have to sit for 3 minutes and now they're fanning for 3 minutes, you know those puppies are going to be dry. I will have no issues with applying my sealer. And then quick tip, if you're like, how much do I do? I always recommend using a brush. We sell an primer and sealer application brush, and we made sure to match the price on Amazon. If you want to know why, I highly recommend don't use a micro swab or a lip wand. A lip wand is not made for lashes. And I'll do this again in the video, but like a lip wand or a micro swab will be like washing your hair like this. No, you want to get in there. This is what the brush does. Okay? Please don't use a lip wand or a micro swab. They don't do shit. Okay, they're getting the very top layer, and if they're getting all the layers, you are massively flooding the lash line and you're doing nothing. You're doing your clients a disservice because they're not gonna hold. Is my hair messed up from doing that? Okay, now I can like be myself again. But again, I'm gonna do like a whole in-depth video. Use a brush. If you don't want to buy it from us and you don't want to buy SOCO lashes, go on Amazon because it's the same price. But if you want to support a small business, we sell it and we match Amazon prices. But that I think I'm gonna wrap it up. And if you have any questions or if there's something that I didn't cover, because I'm sure that there's going to be incidents where I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing. And this industry is so new. I don't know everything. What I say isn't Bible. And maybe what I say in a year, I'm gonna be like, oh my gosh, I just had an epiphany. X-nay this video, I have new information. You have to remember that this is such a new industry. This industry's been a thing for like maybe 10 years-ish, give or take. And like, we're still learning. It's so new. We're so lucky. It's so cool. It's so cool to be in such a brand new infant stage of this industry, because like you watching this, you were part of the introduction of lashes to the world. It's so cool. You're going to be able to say like, oh, I remember. You're going to be the crazy grandma saying, well, I remember when eyelashes, you had to go every 2 weeks. And they're going to be like, okay, grandma, you're crazy, right? They're probably going to have lashes that like last a month and literally don't fall out. A little side story. I used to have a friend who, the first time she got her nails done, she was like, oh my God, I literally thought you just went and you got your nails done and you're set for life until you want to change them. She didn't realize that like you had to go back for maintenance. So anytime like I used to do nails, and when my clients, I would transition some of them to get lashes, and they're like, oh, like how much is it? How often do you have to come? And I was like, oh, it's like every 2 weeks. It's just an expensive manicure and you can't miss it because it's on your face. So anyways, okay, I'm gonna zip it because it's like, shut up, Jonna. Any questions? Comment below. If you disagree with something I said, I would love to be challenged, because again, I don't know
These are the application brushes I was talking about for primer and sealer. If you actually want to see primer and sealer work, use these. And links to everything will be in the show notes.
Let me know, because I might be wrong. Okay, talk to you later. Thank you.